todos os temas que nós poderemos encontrar aqui, um deles que está muito no nosso dia-a-dia é este tema da economia. Quem é que deve controlar os recursos, por quem é que eles devem ser distribuídos, quem é que faz essa distribuição, qual é o impacto da extração dos recursos e depois da sua transformação no ambiente, quem é que deve fazer o mapeamento das necessidades humanas, quem é que sabe de que é que as pessoas precisam ou não precisam. Devemos pensar na economia também nesse sentido de que todos nós somos atores numa economia, não só na nossa própria economia individual, na nossa economia familiar, na nossa economia de bairro, na nossa economia de país e de mundo. Vamos, ao longo deste painel, abordar estes temas da descentralização económica, da descentralização monetária e financeira e atentar sobretudo que, e como já foi dito no painel anterior, a natureza é limitada, mas a criatividade e a criação humana não o são. E já havia um ditado muito antigo, que é dito na minha terra, não colocar os ovos todos no mesmo cesto. E eu acho que se aplica muito na descentralização e toda a teoria da descentralização, especialmente da descentralização económica. Sem mais demoras, vamos dar início ao painel. O nosso primeiro orador será Colin Whitelaw, que é investigador, professor de longa data de Prout. Além de dar workshops e escrever artigos, faz também parte de um grupo de pessoas que estão a desenvolver e a gerir uma ecovila, quinta e centro de treino da Dinamarca focada em Prout, a Ananda Gaori, que oferece formação em design de permacultura, design de ecovilas, treino de ativistas em Prout e treino de estilo de vida e desenvolvimento pessoal. O tema que ele nos traz será Prout e a descentralização económica.
My talk today is to discuss the benefits of an integrated and comprehensive approach to economic decentralization, embodied in the new socioeconomic theory called Prout. And I'm going to follow on a little bit from Peter de Vos, that we not only need to be active politically, but we have to have some kind of unifying, coherent philosophy behind that political activity. To get started, let us take a brief look at examples of the present global context regarding economic decentralization. Around the world, the number of inspiring examples of local economy initiatives where people are bucking the trend of globalization are growing with great speed. More than 1 billion people belong to consumer and producer cooperatives, and those same cooperatives employ more than 100 million people. 6,000 plus community-supported agriculture projects exist in the US alone, and more than 1 million participants are involved with similar kinds of projects in Japan. Registered transition movement projects grew from 0 to 400 between 2005 and 2010. I'm not exactly sure what they are now. More than 2,500 alternative currencies operate around the world. Between 1994 and 2000, the number of farmers markets in the USA grew by 63%. The number today is estimated at more than 4,000. And there's dozens more, and some really wonderful examples we saw from South America. All these positive developments, however, exist in a world where the dominant trend is going in the reverse direction. The global economy is steadily being brought under the control of a small number of multinational corporations, creating the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich ever witnessed, and leaving local populations increasingly powerless in their ability to influence their environment. The wealthiest 10% own 89% of the world's wealth. 2.2 billion children in the world. Every second child lives in poverty. 80% of people in the world live in countries where wealth disparity is increasing. In the first 2 years of so-called recovery in the United States, after 2008, the top 7% of Americans increased their wealth by 28%, while the remaining 93% saw their wealth decreased by 4%. Sorry?
It's written 7.
There is 7, you said 28.
Oh, okay.
Which one is the right one, 28 or 7?
I think it's 27, whichever one I wrote up there. I did this one from memory. As long as noble efforts to create stronger and more sustainable local economies are swimming against the tide of ever-increasing consolidation of economic power in the hands of a few, the march towards inequality, suffering, and environmental disaster will continue. While it is vital to create inspiring alternatives at the grassroots level, we cannot ignore the urgent need for a new system which can put us on track towards justice, well-being, and sustainability. The Prout system, put forward by revolutionary Indian teacher P.R. Sarkar, pinpoints concentration of economic power in the hands of a few as the main cause of crisis. The basic thrust of Prout is a comprehensive and integrated approach to decentralizing wealth and economic power that includes relocating industries and services with the intention of meeting the needs of the people and making the best use of human and natural resources. Increasing self-reliance in both industry and agriculture at all levels, from nations to towns and villages, and implementing trade policies designed to protect local industries. Controlling the wealth gap and guaranteeing jobs and purchasing capacity. Restructuring the economy to maximize democratic ownership and control. Putting economic planning in the hands of local level governments. So let's look at these one by one. Prout's concept of self-reliant zones is an alternative to the concept of comparative advantage, which promotes the idea that some countries should specialize in high value added industries, while others should be permanently content with low value added economies based on agriculture and the supply of raw materials. Every region of the world has the latent potential to support a varied and balanced economy, capable of meeting the needs of the local people if given the chance. So, a healthy balance of industry and agriculture capable of supplying the basic necessities of life. There could be many socio-economic zones within a country. For example, a large country like India could have as many as 42. Or groups of countries who are perhaps unable to be self-sufficient on their own due to lack of natural resources could group together as one zone. No foreign ownership, temporary protection of industry, and that doesn't mean no trade. So in areas where there's surplus and deficit, there should be free trade. Barter where possible, and as there is a growing parity or equality between the zones, they can amalgamate and form a zone. So unlike the European Union, where you have one zone but with great differences in economic capability between different countries, leading to the disadvantage of those who are less developed. So what are the benefits? Prosperity through balanced development. So we understand well that prosperity depends upon a mix a balanced mix of industry and agriculture. Prosperity without exploitation. So if you have a relative parity or balance between the different zones all the way around the world, and the principle is self-reliance, then you don't have, you know, the concept or the practice of empire with different zones constantly battling each other to attain international domination. World peace and economic stability with the principle of self-reliance. So stability, not huge amounts of money rushing around the world, and you know, the battle between regions for domination, as I just mentioned. Better use of human and natural resources. So we have many situations where in some countries people are, you know, kind of working constantly from dawn till dusk, and other countries where there is massive unemployment, and many regions of the world where, unless it's profitable to do so, vast areas of the planet are totally neglected, which could be better utilized if each area was self-reliant. So under the capitalist system, only those areas which are, those locations of resources which are extremely profitable to make use of get utilized, but things in your very own neighborhood, if it's not profitable to utilize them, they'll just be ignored. So huge amounts of our productive potential are ignored because of this policy of comparative advantage. A reduction of waste. It's interesting that statistics say that 1/2 of the world's food production gets thrown away, never reaches your plate. So due to this inefficient system of huge distances which food travels around the world, and the ridiculous standards required for selling them in supermarkets, half of the food never reaches your plate. And cultural and economic diversity. So with each region depending upon its own resources, there will be huge diversity of different types of resources instead of this kind of monoculture focusing on corn and a narrow use of profitable resources. So the burden of feeding the world's population will be spread over a huge variety of energy resources and natural resources and agricultural types. Okay. So, democratic control of production. Rather than favoring state or private ownership, Prout divides the economy into 3 spheres, with the bulk of activity in the middle sphere of cooperatives. So we see that key industries, large-scale industries or vital industries to an economy are put not in the hands of central government, but in the hands of local governments. Mid-sized industries, the largest part of the economy, are cooperatives, and we heard a good explanation from Dada about the benefits of cooperatives. And small businesses is in private enterprise. No scope for large corporations. So, one very important point here is that local industries are in the hands, key industries are in the hands of local governments. And if we look at the speed of economic development in the East Asian economies like Korea and Taiwan and China and Japan, all of them were characterized by, if not ownership of the industries by the local government, a strong ability of the government to control the industries and direct their development according to the welfare of people. So this aspect of strong government control, at least over the key industries, is a characteristic of Prout. So key industries under the local government, ability to locate industries where needed rather than where profitable. So here the fact that key industries are under the local government gives the ability for decentralization, because privately owned corporations don't decentralize by themselves, rather they do the opposite. So, and if you want to decentralize and locate the industries where it's needed, it has to be under local government control. Otherwise, it simply doesn't happen. Creates infrastructure for growth of smaller industries. So by placing it around, having that ability to decentralize industry creates infrastructure all over the economic zone, allowing other industries, cooperatives to grow up around that. Keeps industry responsible to the local people, wealth remains in the region, adaptability to local conditions, expands the commons or collective wealth. I was very pleased to notice that Norway, which retains state ownership over its oil, has set up a huge trust kept in for future generations. Okay. Keeps investments tied to the real economy. So next we come to the cooperative sector. I think that due to time, because Donna touched that so well, I might just skip over that. And development and empowerment of local regions. Okay. So another point to mention here is that the Chinese economy after 1980 really exploded when Deng Xiaoping put out or decentralized the power of or the ownership and control of state enterprises to local governments, and it initiated a great period of dynamism. Okay. So, not only decentralization under Prout doesn't just mean decentralization of industry, but reversing the process of concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. So how is that done? By effective controls on wealth disparity, which we call wealth rational distribution. So if you want to redistribute wealth, the gap has to be compressed both from the top and from the bottom. So in Prout there are basic guarantees, constitutional guarantees from the bottom level, and also agreed upon limits on the top level. So there are limits for accumulation. And here, I mean, wealth is redistributed in many situations through taxes and welfare, and a rational profit for the rest of the economy. So the economy is subordinated to the society, not vice versa. And ability to determine utilization of resources for people's benefit. Almost done. I'm on the concluding paragraph. So, holistic worldview and consciousness. The ability to resist short-term greed and see that one's own happiness and well-being are greatly dependent upon the happiness and well-being of others. The ability to experience joy by bringing joy to others depends a lot upon our sense of interconnectedness. This holistic feeling of oneness is the new consciousness unfolding slowly and beautifully on our planet. If we are to change our course, our actions must come from this sense of interconnectedness, and as such we must cultivate it carefully within ourselves. To conclude, the logic of capitalism is the logic of centralization, of growing one's market share at the expense of others. It sucks the lifeblood of the periphery and leaves one man standing on top of a heap of destruction. It is the logic of empire, a dinosaur with no place in the modern world. The logic of Prout is the logic of decentralization, of activating and empowering the hidden potential of every person and every corner of the planet. As we head rapidly towards a population of 9 billion people, only a system based on integrated and comprehensive decentralization can lead to a prosperous and sustainable future. Thank you.